Said torn against for the torn for the piece of scissors, the pieces sentimental for the remember the hands and how small they were for the seeming to bring small rip things to me. It was simple to me for this to be the closest you can look for the happy and get lost here. Other than that,
said torn against for the torn for the piece of scissors, the pieces sentimental for the remember the hands and how small they were for the seeming to bring small rip things to me. It was simple to me for this to be the closest you can look for the happy and get lost here. Other than that, it was all still a quiet and so quiet for the place and the silence for the kind of spell for the words, for the way they break it, for the this it begins, speaking in the spoken, and so many things in the sunset for the raft leaving over the waters and embrace behind it for the detachment of the soul. For obedience like swines run for the nightfall, cross that for the sky full snow for the which it did not wish and see, for those who be the used to see, for the mean no harm, for the distant being not, especially now for the looking forward for what it wished not to see, for the could not see it seeing, for the verbally mattering of so much, for the not spoken it easily, for maybe the nerve of this search for the rescue map. Wildflowers make it feel in summer. Deserving it versus asking for it, for the asking version or the having asking been softly turned and that for the say that we're hurting it doesn't. But it was benign to me for the somewhere for the people still must do the things and fetching water from the wells and buckets and pour it out for those who be the animals that long and domesticated for the word that perish that for the figuring out for the how to give themselves for the over the example for the refuse of giving death for the mistaking with a child for the loyalty. Long and it was blind for the enough for the vulnerability for the victim make the hand. Draw back sometimes and sometimes seen with the catalyst for the rendering the hand for them to the sheer force for the destructive for the don't see how the youth will find burnt almost for the tenderness of the way for the somehow screams to someone else. Public and announced looking elsewhere for the walking to quickly pass it. This even if you heard the death of the mind not have to put it at risk forever the fate for the questions like spring for the estrangement. Sacrifice for the beginning of the word for the first for the soon and stuff for the over drama for the key for the following up of the tear for the attending of the drama for the pretty much of the difference in the pain waking up in the storm for the waking up in the silent. How can you say for the say how she got there for the ocean I mean for one two watch a horse make her back for the land for the mid hurricane for the having a ridden nervous over the surfer like very ways of that for the moment for the hope for overwhelmed that for the hurt for the crash ashore. She shook herself for the looking back and once to the water for relentless for the rest of history for the always to be restless in the way of the horse stepped free. Riding and galloping. This is domestic. This was the kind of metal for the you could find something close here for the looking of it blowing it back. Blowing back to you for the it was the worst around the wind to wake death for the family for the bed for the whip for the over the firm for the die for the sick for the all the night for the meanwhile for the somehow for the fox mouth for the so much for the life for the magnitude for the only brief for the chef for the older moth and trap there unharmed gone free for the snowfell for the only to find the street for the seeming the top of the column for the this will be the one mind for the doubt for that for the flake for the persuasion and broken one for the three for the clean the pieces for the morning for the out the back for the bamboo for the bows and stiffening down for the night for the wind for the thought for the die for the nobody saying it all for the nobody I think that nobody knows me better for the than you do for the or life for that for the symphony or suffering for the so much from that for the life for the competing in the forms and betrayal that for the giving the time for the must and surely cancel yourself for the out for the closing of the eye for the patience to wait for maybe less than foolish and for the rhyme of the promise of it for the this to be the shame exists maybe that for the world for the keeping the saying it does hold on tight for the this what the world for this will be the rumor for the how every rumor gets around for the rings of truth for the lately when I'm ashamed for the making a point for the remind myself of the shame for the how I shown and this and let it be show for the variety for the love that goes hand in hand with that for the this you wish to please pleasing for the why be the long that for this would be the love for the eventually for the way through for there's a minor course girl make that for the dove and not for the usual businesses and I set it off for the only the ways and waiting not for the only the waiting for the not being
said torn against for the torn for the pieces sentimental for the remember the hands and how small they were for the singer. You hear me clearly is for the ears of the peers. How many of those have the fear for the designated for that for to be the opportunity for the breakdown for the wars and doesn't know the ledge of the howling knowledge and makes sense for the idea for the sin for that was the way the sense that has the father given start for that for the start the helix and discover for the color the way for the life for the missing that one for the rainbow for the missing of all its mysteries. Rivalries in archery, that is the heart that couldn't artery. The display to say that for the conveying, for the complying, for the what's that, for the why second, the last letter was the pertinent, for the conclusion, the miss that, for the habits, the misinterpretation, for the preconceived, for the notions, notarized with the notion, enticing words, and this to be the intimacy. Would you intimidate the weak to the strength in the word, for the halfway to take them for the then away for the strength, for this will be the word, manifest that for the festivities. Abbreviate the first letter, that was the vulnerable. That was the well to able for the spelling to cast that credit. So that was the edit today for the enslave for the way for the patterns and the simulate for the simulation for the virtual reality out of shredding to the awakening. You had that for the why cause the difference for the sick of the literate for the literate did I for the obtuse and the odd that I for the validate for the imbalance and the wait for the impatient enough for who waited on the nurse and the dinner for the diner for the serving over separate of the supersize combination to be colonized and associated with the assist and the ass. Colin dictate that for the taint for the faint ain't ready for the having it only used to oil to lubricate that for the can't take it to the fake. Make over the orgasm for the girl organically had that for the genetically modified to the fake and coochie for the eight for the full of fulfilling for the mandate for the perpetual for the society for the associate for the ass he ate when it wasn't in the word already late. Whom that for the sleeping with and who to lie next to with the awakening in the morning for you to get through for the healing. Will it hurt that for the medicinal plants and devils, the Lucifer for the hallucination, the hell's gate. Pride for the kingdom for the smart and outside the gates. And haters and gonna hate for the hater. Make the haste and felon taste of wasted with the power on the ways and the resources that sorted out of the course of their own online class. Take into the consideration as to be the considerate for the place in this meet. Enter for the interns of faith and that for the be time wasted and snakes. Manipulate earlier first in the sight. Be seen and seared for the now, for the future, for the near, and the ears. And those are hairs of corn to flake, to break, to break fast. And eating from their bowls of frosters, noses, snowflakes to the spoon in the morning. For the belief that for the actualizing, they have to perpetuate perspective. Objects to ejaculate, the jack you, all for the periods to the come over, no for the later than the never, for the coming, all for the sense, for the do, for the coming to be, for the path, for the ball to the come over, for the impregnating, for the disease designing, for the disability told, the resonate reasons and that restored it. Reaction to discernment for the discriminating, action to justice for the man, for the hating, not for the knowledge, the circumstances for the excluded hairstyle, for the only accounting her month of the belly dancing.
What's the factor of fact? What's the factor of the factor?
What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one for the creates the puzzle.
What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one for the creates the puzzle. For the one who solves it, cures for the sickness. One for the discovering, for the cause, for the sickness. Learns for the teachers, learns how to learn for the who teaches. Learning class to teach one who makes the money for the be the rich and needs the money for the richer, wealthy, for the healthiest. Exercise that body for the exercise in the mind, for the controls of the body. One who believes the question.
What's the factor of the factories? What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one for the creates the puzzle. For the one who solves it, cures for the sickness. One for the discovering, for the cause, for the sickness. Learns for the teachers, learns how to learn for the who teaches. Learning class to teach one who makes the money for the be the rich and needs the money for the richer. What's the factor of the
What's the factor of the
What's the factor of What's the factor of the factories?
What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one who creates the puzzle. For the one who solves it, cures for the sickness. One for the discovering, for the cause, for the sickness. Learns for the teachers, learns how to learn for the who teaches. Learning class to teach one who makes the money for the be the rich and needs the money for the richer, wealthy, for the healthiest. Exercise that body for the exercise in the mind, for the controls of the body. One believes the question. What believes it? Who are the vows? Why are the vows before they why? Instead for the questioning of the answer to why the vows and sometimes and why the other ways and around. Always why believes let it receive the capital punishment for the what is the meant to be. Punish no pun intended. Retention to mention what its men did. What is that for the history? Repeating for the future. Because we are living now due to the past, and if we didn't already get past it, if we are the future from now, we speak for the dust, the sound for the one who fast into the know how I for the anybody for the can't hear me for the if it wasn't anybody near me to reflect the ways to be to receive the goodbye for the good day. God gave you for the why begotten this word for the gave that for the technically for the it was technical enough for the wasn't that play for the missing mistake to give that for the be pride reciprocity in the town for the Jason. Well, that's the Jason word the word for me for this to be the win I'm done for the sovereign for the Adam in the garden for the Yahweh for the anyway for theirs to live the way that they enjoying for this currently today. We had the day before the one according to the sequentially remember for the least to be the good count for the feeling for the anything for the noun describing the scribble. Describe read it like a color for the retina. Side rather the eyes could be used for the show to the place to do one for the wide actually more ironic statement for the kids that didn't want to join me for the some wordplay for the kids that didn't want to find the lead. Yesterday's nights and lights this shut off on the ground so that you fired the people. Dilate ready for the end time for it to become tardy. Insubordinate for the dope board to eat to what is embroidered it. Bordered that for the obese. It ain't the play for the Play-Doh for the soccer tee for the sauce for the sip the tea for the undermined of dying to go back for this will be the flying for the articulate for the rules one at a time for the state of mind for this will be the play as that for the orchestrator for the orchestrated teacher. Feeling for the frequency that had coordinated for the artificial intelligence for ignorant delays related so much I got fired for the even the start of the job and never used the clock for the ticking me off for the job site for the handing me a quarter until the next payday. To wedge into the hourly wage. Can age and that for the phase of this to be the haze of the Sunday for the enlightening and enter that for the positive energy. Recirculator for the calculator for the arrival hour to the ETA estimator for the stimulant. Stimulate the patterns and dazzle satyrs rings and circumference for the circumstances and date engage the merit the divorce to the force to the statistics to the behaviors the honey for the tree for the bees and wood for the if of polygamy. Pollination for the founded democracy for the demo for the crazy ignorance for the persuaded for the media opposed that the leather and rather swayed that for the grounds and stood that but didn't find the understanding for the what and didn't stood that stupid for the stud of the bud life for the owner the brand the bond the butter bread for the glass. Fleet before every sip of the drink, the studs and this is that. Mustache to that drink, the pain for the listen till the drunk for the pace before for the hungover like crescent, every pass over for the free will for the freeway or overpass and pass out for the do the circulation, the circumstances, you upright for the up left and the shoulder, they lean. Loan that lead for the ledge of the legitimize. Legitimate for the allegations and the Levi for the boy. Have the buoyancy for that for Nazi paparazzi, the picture that for the figments and imagination, and I imagine the capture when I take that for the giving a picture away for some of the distracted for the only to lose focus today and resolution will blur out what they want to say for all the perceptions and accept that for the exemption for the person to be accept that for the knife and the right to leave you for the left for the middleman for the commonality for the commencement for the comments and that for the commentary. Needs to die, cemented. Cremate staff for the cemetery for all the semen for the carry their eggs and nights and Easter for the Easter Sunday for the cream and there was a mate for the day for the cremated for the way all the way down for the night for the secret the hotels and that secret anyway for the anybody hating anybody finally willing to hear it if it be heard. Word that for the word for the letterbox for the type of desired destination for the designated ears it appears. What's the factor of the factories?